So now all the newer ideas that are being thrown around in the market related to SaaS have a solid reason for its hype. That is, knowledge of the fast developing hardware that allows developers and users to aim higher and achieve better. This is done for SaaS by cloud computing. There's a very popular concept, one that can have a presentation dedicated to it alone. So we are going to assume you are well acquainted with it already and won't be boring you to death with explanation about it. But we would like to mention that cloud computing still has security as an issue. This security concern worsens when we consider usage of SaaS in the cloud, since data is of the essence in SaaS, and any sort of security concern will cause a major pain in the head for the users, since no user would want their data, which could range from financial statements to social security IDs, to be leaked out into the internet world. This picture actually sums up cloud computing rather accurately. It's basically a gathering of code, servers, back-end hardwares, apps, and many more within the internet itself, thus being accessible to any user with an internet access, and in certain areas users with necessary permissions for security clearances to use the app itself. Now, while reading contents about SaaS, we came across two more similar concepts, namely IaaS and PaaS. IaaS stands for Infrastructure as a Service, and PaaS stands for Platform as a Service. Infrastructure stands for any kind of hardware or server or backend machines that is needed to host your software. The specifications needed for the infrastructure could be far higher than the budget of a small company who might already have a solid software setup for it. Using IaaS, they can acquire their infrastructure needs on a rented basis without having to worry about heavy investment. Similarly, PaaS follows a similar trend. Here the user gets his hand on existing infrastructure along with initial software layers that might be pre-built, and they can implement their own ideas on top of this pre-existing applications.
These are the leading service providers for some of the popular SaaS applications. It's Salesforce.com for CRM, ADP and Ceridian for HR related services, and Taleo for software that makes recruiters' life easy, and NetSuite for accounting software. This graph here depicts the domains for which software as a service is in demand. Marketing automation is the area for which software as a service is used the most. Well, there are some important negotiations which a customer should not forget to make with the service provider before starting the deal. Firstly, it's the service level agreement. This is nothing but knowing how less the customer would be charged if there is a technical problem for which the service provider is responsible for. These technical problems could be anything which delays or stops the provider's service to the customer. Some of them are huge system upload time, delay due to improper integration issues, data loss, etc. Next, he could discuss as to what would happen to his data at the end of the contract. At times, the customer would want to have all his vital data back, or he would like to destroy it as he does not want any third party to know about it. He should also know for sure the number of hours of phone support per day or per week that the service provider could offer, and also the turnaround time for his email question. The service provider should provide a maximum amount of time that they would take to respond to the customer's question, and also let the customer know if they could respond to customers' questions immediately when the need arises. There are certain charges which some of the service providers do not let the customers know. We want them to discuss or inquire about those before the deal starts. Some vendors charge extra if the service is received on a Wi-Fi enabled mobile phone. Sometimes they charge extra for integrating applications, and then also for adding some of the basic functionalities or modules. Now, as discussed in the first half of the course, the SaaS provider needs to have a team to bring out all the customer's requirements and understand his problem domain thoroughly. The customer has to make use of the trial offers provided by SaaS vendors to know exactly the service they are going to receive, and maybe understand the service in a better way if they're not aware about it. Well, The sort of Big Daddy image that comes to people's mind when they talk about software as a service is Salesforce.com. They have around 72,500 customers and are best known for customer relation management products. CRM solution that they offer consists of sales, service and support, partner relationship management, marketing, content, ideas, and analytics. Salesforce.com is the most complete CRM in the industry. They broadly classify their applications for sales and customer service into Sales Cloud and Service Cloud.
Now the following slides are going to get really in-depth into SaaS. Most of our time spent during the research was heavily rewarded by being able to understand these concepts, which cover intricate as well as technical details of SaaS. We have expressed these findings as questions, and this screencasting option is definitely going to make life easier to convey our points without flooding the slides with dozens of points. Now the first question clearly focuses on data management when multiple tenants are involved and they are all working on a single instance. This is achieved by using metadata. More explanation on metadata would be coming on very soon. So we'll have to describe the UI, that is the user interface for each of the tenants, the business process for each of the tenants, the data model extensions for each of the tenants, such that it's being inspected at the runtime, and depending on who the tenant is, their corresponding metadata is checked and the system will acquire the UI, business process, and so on from it. Now another tenant might make a similar request, but because metadata associated to the request is different, the software will behave differently. This feature is not typical on today's on-premise applications because you don't have to cope with several requests on a single instance of the applications with different data models, different UIs, etc. Now next question is, how useful is the concept of metadata? Metadata is basically data about data. Now user interface. Now this is one of the four things that are provided to be configured using metadata. We all love to customize our desktop, our applications, and so on. Similarly, SaaS applications provide this customizing feature to customers to modify things such as graphics, colors, fonts, and so on. Now in workflow and rules, consider wide range potential customers. The SaaS app should be able to accommodate for different workflows. Take for example, one user needs one supervisor approval, the second needs two approvals, and so on. Hence, your customers should be able to configure these workflows to their company standards and needs. Third part, now consider extensions to data models. Now one of the bigger problems of SaaS, quite well known, is that one size definitely doesn't fit all. Customers could have fixed data fields or tables, and SaaS app might have to accommodate that as well. This extensible data model basically provides the user freedom to make an application work in their desired way rather than having to comply with the way the SaaS was actually built. This is explained more in detail in one of the future slides. Now, last point is access control. It's obvious that in an organization, not all users of the organization will have accesses and rights to every app or piece of software. This separation of functions and resources for every user is tracked by security policies which are already in place and are configurable by each tenant that acquire the SaaS services.